to the stories that have been out in the wrestling media, Vince McMahon Jr., the owner, the chairman of WWE, cut the live feed to Saudi Arabia, put it on a delay of about 40 minutes or so in retaliation for not getting paid. So Vince and his top production staff, his executive producer Kevin Dunn, and the people in his inner circle jumped on this private plane and flew back to the U.S. immediately after the pay-per-view. Some of the wrestlers who were involved, Brock Lesnar in particular, brought his manager, who's also the executive producer of one of WWE's television shows. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, loaded them on his chartered private jet and got out. The rest of the wrestlers and the crew got stranded, and there have been different stories out there. There's one story that a fuel truck had blocked the path of the plane, and that the person who was in charge of refueling the planes went home for the day, so they couldn't move the truck. I've heard stories that the wrestlers were ordered off the plane by military personnel. These are the people that Vince McMahon is dealing with. If he's going that far over a 40-minute delay in a pay-per-view feed over a money dispute, just imagine what they would do if they really got pissed off. Folks, right here's the prelude to me saying, I told you so. You better listen to me. You better listen. Doing business with them is a bad idea. It's a very bad idea. You better get it through your thick heads, because I'll keep pounding it in until it sinks in. Oh, all right, let's get back to what we were talking about here. I've got this. This is Alex Seitz-Wald and Vaughn Hilliard writing for NBC News. Kentucky Attorney General Andy Beshear pulled off an apparent upset Tuesday night over Republican Governor Matt Bevin, dealing a blow to Donald Trump. That's according to NBC News projections. Democrats flipped both chambers of the Virginia state legislature, giving the party complete control of the Commonwealth for the first time in years. In Mississippi, Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves is the apparent winner in the governor's race over Democratic State Attorney General Jim Hood Tuesday night. By the way, that race in Mississippi was Republican versus Republican light, because Attorney General Jim Hood said if he was elected governor, he would defend Mississippi's anti-abortion laws. Folks, that's what Vote Blue no matter who gets you!
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me continue. Tate was endorsed by Trump, who campaigned for him in Tupelo Friday night. He had been favored in the red state, which has not elected a Democratic governor in 20 years. In Kentucky, Trump couldn't save the unpopular Bevin after campaigning with him on the night before the election in Lexington, where Trump told supporters that a loss by the GOP governor would be portrayed as Trump's having suffered, quote, the greatest defeat in the history of the world, end of quote. Don't you just love the hyperbole that comes out of the orange Hitler's mouth? With 99% of precincts reporting the candidates were separated by less than 10,000 votes. By the way, Bevin says that he's going to call for a recount, and the Republican legislature in Kentucky says they're going to get involved in this as well. They're going to try and steal the election is what it is.
But you say, by the way, that's crucial.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, the GOP that's in rule right now, they have no conscience or worry about doing anything that's against the Constitution or against Kentucky's Constitution. People need to drive to Frankfurt. Bernie has come out strongly. I'm going to read that in just a minute. This is an affront. I mean, you can't just say, well, hand this to the Republican legislature and let them come out with a verdict. Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me?
Bevin declined to concede Tuesday night, citing unspecified irregularities in a speech to supporters, while Beshear declared victory, telling the crowd, quote, my expectation is that he will honor the election that was held tonight, end of quote. Well, that might be your expectation, Andy, but Republicans do this everywhere. They don't give up. They don't want to give up.
No, and Democrats, don't you be satisfied with, well, we're near, we're close. No, you cannot abdicate. You got to stop giving up.
Until you're over the finish line, don't quit.
Bernie said it is outrageous. The Republicans are threatening to effectively overturn the Kentucky election. In a democracy, remember those? We cannot allow politicians to just overrule election results.
That's right.
The will of the voters must be respected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. And it's gotten quiet. It's gotten quiet down there. But that doesn't mean it's what's going on behind those doors in Frankfurt isn't going on.
That's exactly right. By the way, under Kentucky law, candidates can request a recount, but they have to foot the bill for it. Wonder if Bevin's got the money to do that. The NBC projected that turnout was higher than expected. They estimated turnout across the state at 1.4 million, which was 400,000 more than the last governor's contest in 2015. I can tell you why, because people hate Matt Bevin. He took away the Medicaid expansion. He's against public teachers. Let me read this here. The race was competitive from the start because Bevin is one of the least popular governors in the country, according to the Morning Consult poll, due in part to a history of incendiary comments and fights over public teachers and health care. He tried to nationalize the contest and tie himself to Trump to overcome that headwind, with a closing campaign ad tying Beshear to what he calls, quote, socialists in Washington who want to impeach Trump, end of quote. Here's what Bevin said at his polling place on Tuesday. Quote, talk to the average person, ask the next 100 people who come in here if they care about this impeachment process, and they will tell you almost to a person that they do because they find it to be a charade. We don't appreciate when a handful of knuckleheads in Washington abdicate their responsibility as elected officials and try to gin up things that are not true because they can't handle the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't win.
Here's what you have to avoid like the plague. They want to take a group of selected lawmakers, 8 from the House, 3 from the Senate. This is the actual brand of poison here.
Mm-hmm.
They would form an elections board. That sounds good.
Yeah.
That would hear evidence and arguments before arriving at a recommendation that would be forwarded to the entire legislature. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hear arguments. Arguments? 5,000 votes? There's no arguments declared by the commission, voting commission there. There's no arguments. You're going to hand this over to a panel of 5, and they're going to come out with an outcome? Folks, if you have one damn shred of care about our democracy, you got to stand against this crap.
They had 1,400,000 voters turn out. 1,400,000 people need to be marching in the streets of Frankfurt with pitchforks and torches.
And I'll drive my butt down there. And I'm not kidding you.
And I'm not saying this hyperbole. You need to do this, Kentuckians. My parents, both my mother and my father, were born in the great state of Kentucky. Please use your brains.
And I'm going to tell you something, folks. If the shoe was on the other foot and Democrats were insisting on refusing the vote totals, refusing and going to hand this over to a partisan board to overthrow the results, I'd be just as animated as I am with this.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing Trump's ability to do it his way, no matter what the Constitution says, no matter what the laws say. I could have punched the TV yesterday when Trump Jr. was sitting with Bag of Hair, whatever her name is.
Oh, Behar. We'll get to Joy Behar and her little feud with Tulsi Gabbard coming up here in a little bit. You know what? We've talked about people need to be marching in Frankfurt over this. Jack, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Before we get to Tulsi Gabbard, I want to talk about something we mentioned last week on this show, and that's the worldwide protests going on all over the place. Argentina, Chile, Italy, Spain, France, Hong Kong, you name it. People are out in the street. They're marching. Lebanon, Pakistan, India.
Yeah.
People are fed up. They're fed up with these rich people accumulating all the wealth to the point that the top 1% have more than the 99% globally, just about. I believe the top 1% have more wealth than the bottom 50% combined.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
That's ridiculous. People have had their fill of this. You better learn from history. History always seems to repeat itself because guess what?
It stutters.
People fail to learn from it. When you don't learn from history, you are doomed to repeat it. Have we heard that a bunch of times?
Nader's got it down.
Unreal.
Nader's
where are you reading this from?
Truth Dig.
Yeah,
the title is "Why Isn't the 99% Revolting?" I mean, really, it's a real clear question. The rest of the world's got it figured out. What's in our diet?
Yeah.
I guess you have to look at the list, which is endless here, of reasons why. I'm just going to paraphrase, but we've never seen the drug and oil industries just raping huge profits and getting tax breaks before like this, folks. If that doesn't get you up off your couch, I don't know what will. We've never seen the grotesque treatment and hatred and comments against crippled women from the presidency like we have now. Things that in and of themselves you should get up and protest. There's never been more ongoing impeachable offenses and statutory violations by a president than we have right now. This pales, Nixon. We've never had the tax breaks, ugly, huge, big business tax breaks handed over to businesses, and people get $2.50 with their income tax back out of your hide, voters. It's been given to the corporations. There's never been more liquid corporate capital pileup. There's never been bigger discrepancies in the cost of college for students. The list, my thumb is going down through this list. They're directed towards you 99%. You should be aware of many of these. I don't think that you're not aware. You either think it's impossible, or you're too damn busy, or there's a Big Ten game Saturday you can't miss. I don't know. But Nader said, where are they at? Darren Gibson and Jack Prince have said for 3 shows ongoing, if I'm not mistaken, where are they at? This last summer, we're watching Hong Kong. We're watching the Yellow Vest all last year.
Yeah.
Now it's spread globally, except to the soil of corporate propagandized America, where the zombies are still lining up, believing the crap they see in mainstream media, propaganda TV.
Mm-hmm.
How do you wake them up? Like Lord of the Rings. Remember the whole kingdom where the leader was just drugged and he was taken over by witches? I don't know. What do you do? How do you get them out of their lethargy?
I don't know. We're going to just keep hammering the point. That's the only way, is repeat, repeat, repeat.
I have an article to correspond. It's called Governments Beware. People are rising up all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
That the caveat there is, I'm going to add it, my own words, except in the good old U.S. of A.
Exactly, because we've either have gotten too lazy or too busy. And by the way, the rich, wealthy oligarchs want us kept busy. Because while we're busy trying to put food on the table, trying to keep the lights on, trying to keep the heat on, trying to keep clothes on the family, they're going to the bank with all the money. Better understand this, folks. I mean, yeah, Jack, you're sitting over there shaking your head. How do you get through to them?
Well, I guess one thing is, there is a group. There is a group there. I'm not using names, but there is a segment of the American population that knows what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you gather them, it looks like a formidable force, I suppose, and you theorize that synergy will bounce off of that when they see that group. But the infiltration of the conservative propaganda is so deep, and the establishment Democratic Party propaganda is so deep, that it's hard to even get them together. We sit in Grand Rapids. There's a formidable black community just south of us, and I taught in a school that was 70% black for a number of years, et cetera, et cetera. I couldn't find a liberal voice in the black community. I can find plenty of DeVos voices that go and get the chocolate-covered strawberries and all of the pep talks from the DeVos Foundation people, and they believe that horse crap. So it's like a boat with dry rot. We got the flag, we got Statue of Liberty, but if you look behind the curtain, if you press on that foundation of democracy, your finger goes right through it. There's very few back-to-back progressives that stand together because there's schisms and there's fractions, and the Democratic Party is dead. The traditional foundations of liberalism in this country used to be the unions, the media, and I'm going to go out on a big limb here, the theater, and one that we are seeing rot right in front of our eyes, the universities. The universities were cornerstones of liberalism. There were speakers, but the conservatives gone and intimidated them. We had a show where they'd go into a guy's named Churchill's classroom in some school out west who was a strong progressive. They would send in Republicans to harass and taunt with.